Alright, welcome back to the channel, everybody. Today I want to talk about a technique that has played a huge role in my fishing and actually is probably my greatest strength as a shallow water angler. And I don't know if it's because of the water that I tend to seek or just how my style is, but the four out of the five tournaments that I finished in the top five this year, both in the Angler's Choice on the Fox chain as well as the Great Lakes Division BFLs. This technique was such a crucial player, and while it didn't catch all of my fish in those tournaments, it caught the ones that mattered. And with that said, a frog is the technique that I'm going to talk to you guys about today. And with my frogs, I tend to keep my stuff simple, but I am very specific on the type of frogs that I use due to a couple factors that I'll share with you guys here. And the first frog that I want to talk about is a live target frog. And this is hands down the best frog out there. I don't care what anybody says. I truly believe this live target 65 is the best frog out there. This is the big version. They make two other smaller versions. They make a little baby one, an in-between size, and then this bigger one right here. But this still isn't a giant frog. So the 65 is a great big fish catching bait. I would say 80% of the time this is the frog I'm going with. But the reason that I like this frog so much is because of the body and how it collapses. Super soft, made out of a great material. You're going to go through a bunch of them around pike. It's just going to happen. But I'm willing to fork out the money for this bait because of that body, along with the fact that the weight on this frog sits further back than a majority of the competition's frog. And what that does is when a fish comes up to bite it, that weight will squeeze through these two hooks and allow that fish to bite down further, exposing more of a hook gap, which in turn leads to a better hookup with this frog. I don't know of any other frog that really does it as well as this one does. The other frog that I like to throw a lot is a Booyah. And actually, I'll show you side by side. It's just a Booyah Pad Crasher. Side by side what I'm talking about here. And this is a good frog. Booyah's a good frog, but it doesn't have as much of a bite gap because of what I'm talking about here. Now, if you look where the weight is placed on this frog, it's really kind of more towards the belly of the frog here. And that weight doesn't allow the weight is hard, so it cannot be smashed down just like the rest of the body on the frog. Now, because of that, you do not get as much of a gap between the hook point and the plastic right here. And I don't think you get as good of a hookup with this style of frog. Now, I like the Booyah Pad Crasher, though, because it makes up for it in the sense that it's soft, soft enough to be compressed very easy to where you can get a hook in that fish really well. But this frog has the best of both worlds. And I'll show you again what that weight looks like that I'm talking about here. You can see how that weight slides between those two hooks there, and it allows the frog to be compressed more, which will give you a better hookup. Now, that is something I have never talked to anybody about before. So I'm really spilling the goods here and on why I believe this frog to be so good. Spro is a great frog too, but they have this belly weight this weight more towards the belly, and it doesn't allow you to have more compressed plastic in the back, which in turn leads to better hookups. Now, the way that you can get around that is by tipping the hooks of your frog up, but I'm not doing that. The reason that I'm not going to do that is I do not want to mess with the integrity of that hook. I don't want to even give it the chance to flex out by bending it up a little bit. I want none of that. I want my frog just like this one, straight out of the package, where when a big one bites it, I'm getting them. So this frog, like I said, just my personal favorite. I highly recommend you go try these out. You're going to be a lot more happy when it comes to frog fishing in terms of getting fish in the boat. And I know that that is a big problem that guys struggle with, and that's a big reason they don't throw frogs very often, or they don't like to do it, because the hookup isn't that great for them. But don't listen to everybody out there that just tells you to go pick up this brand of frog and blah, blah, blah. I'm showing you right here of why I believe you should go throw this frog. Now, as far as colors go, I keep it very simple. I have white, brown, black, and one of my other little secret colors here that I like to throw is the bullfrog color. It's a very light chartreuse. It's not very, very bold and crazy, but it looks identical to a bullfrog belly. And that is probably my favorite color of all time in the live target lineup. So yeah, as far as standard walking frogs, just that is really the two that I tend to go with, just because of those various reasons. Another great frog that you can throw is the River to Sea Bullywah. That's a good frog too. I don't think it's as good as the live target, but I do think it's a very good frog. And I have the popping version of that frog, and you can see this one does that same thing with the weight. It's far enough back to where when a fish bites down here, that pops through those hooks, exposing more of a bite gap with your hook. Now, I truly believe that those are the best frogs on the market that do that in terms of moving that weight out of the way. But this is a great frog, popping style. I don't think they make a live target popping frog, which is really why I go to these. But I don't really throw a whole lot of popping frogs, if I'm being honest with you. But if you are to go pick some up, I highly recommend that one. The last frog that I throw, like I said, I keep it very simple, but particular. And the last frog that I throw is kind of a little secret around here. Not a lot of guys throw it, but it's not a new bait. It's actually a really old bait, and that being the Stanley Top Toad. Now this thing looks kind of ridiculous, old and janky, but there is something about this bait, and I have not figured it out yet, but anybody who throws it will tell you this thing is a fish catcher, and a big fish catcher. For whatever reason, the main thing that I like about it is that it's hollow and it's got an air pocket in the actual body of the frog, which allows you to reel this frog like a buzz frog, but you can pause it. So if you're reeling it along over the top of a grass mat and it gets into a hole, you just pause it and it'll sit there. It'll just float. And that is the reason that I really, really like this frog. Now, I know Spro just came out with one, but I haven't messed around with that. I don't know if they moved the weight that was in the back on the hooks, but if they didn't, I'm not even going to waste my time with it, to be honest with you, because I think this is such a great, great bait to be throwing. And with that said, they have Top Toad hooks is what they're called. You can search for them on Tackle Warehouse. Actually, I'll just leave the link down for you guys with this hook and these baits that I got. But kind of a goofy looking hook, but man, it gets them. I've had no issues hooking up with this thing. So as far as that goes, the only other modification I do to the hook is I change out the spring lock that it comes with a bigger one, because the bigger your spring lock, or your screw lock on here, the more plastic it's going to bite and the better this bait is going to hold, and it's going to last up to, I mean, man, I've caught like 15 fish on one bait before with that bigger screw lock, because it just holds up so much better and it doesn't rip out of the nose and pull all that plastic out. So those are the frogs that I use. I think I have it narrowed down to a very, very good system. I do believe that I am throwing the best frogs out there. If any of you have any other suggestions, I'll definitely look into that. But these are the ones that I have found to be absolutely perfect. I have no complaints with them, and they're something that I have the most confidence in throwing. As far as my rods go, like I said in my previous video, I keep it simple. I don't spend a ton of money on my rods. This is a St. Croix Mojo Bass. It's an absolutely fantastic rod. This is the 7.4 heavy frog and slop rod. Slop and frog and swim jig rod is actually what this is called. But great rod. As far as the reel go, I do spend a little bit more money on this because I'm throwing 65 to 50 pound braid, and I need a reel that's going to be durable and just hold up. And the Lose Super Duty is an amazing reel. I mean, man, it is as good as the day I got it. It is like brand new, but this reel's got really high-powered gears in it, and it also just has a great drag that you can really crank down and it's not gonna slip. So that is the setup that I use for all of my frogs. I don't change my frog setup, but this works perfect with everything. It works with the top toad. It works with the other various frogs that I showed you. So with that said, if you guys like this video, leave a like, go down, comment, just comment about some other content that you guys want to see in the future, and subscribe, tell your buddies, do all that jazz. But I will catch you guys on the next one. Thanks for watching.